info Doug Farrar at @BR_Doug Farrar NFL Lead Scout December 20, 2017 Michael Zagaris / Getty Images. When you scout every player at every position in every game, as the NFL 1000 scouting team does, you're often left gobsmacked by the abilities and proficiencies of the league's best players. There's also the thrill of watching young players develop and make their mark in the NFL. On the other hand, there are those instances when we have to call it like we see it regarding the NFL's least effective players. Whether a player is simply physically or mentally overmatched, or in a system or with a coaching staff that prevents development, there are those players who just can't hit the level professional teams need. And that's when the worst players lists come in. It's never pleasant to make these designations. Most NFL players work as hard as they possibly can to be great, or, at the very least, pretty good, but it doesn't always work out. So, here are the players we've seen doing the least with the most at every skill position, evaluated by the NFL 1000 scouting staff. Our team of scouts: lead scout, Doug Farrar; quarterbacks, Mark Schofield; running backs / fullbacks, Mark Bullock; receivers / tight ends, Marcus Mosher; offensive linemen, Ethan Young; defensive linemen, Eustace Mosqueda; linebackers, Derek Clausen; secondary, Ian Morton; David Richards / Associated Press 5, Trevor Siemian, Denver Broncos 4, Blaine Gabbert, Arizona Cardinals 3, Mike Glennon, Chicago Bears 2, Nathan Peterman, Buffalo Bills 1, Deshaun Kaiser, Cleveland Browns. It goes with the territory. When things go well, a quarterback will get the lion's share of the credit. However, if things go south, they can expect more than their fair share of the blame. For these 5 passers, there was plenty of blame to go around, but in the end, they find themselves on this frightful list. For Trevor Siemian, a year that began with promise showed danger signs early, particularly during a dreadful performance on the road against the Buffalo Bills. Siemian threw 2 awkward interceptions that pointed toward a potential ceiling for the Broncos with him under center, and they met that ceiling with Siemian as the starter. Denver might need to address the quarterback position yet again this offseason. Gabbert and Peterman were 2 quarterbacks put into difficult spots when they were called upon, albeit for different reasons. Arizona turned to Gabbert after injuries to starter Carson Palmer and backup Drew Stanton, and while the former first-round pick showed flashes, he struggled with turnovers and in the face of pressure, and was sent back to the bench this week. Peterman was thrust into the lineup in an awkward spot, in place of the very capable starter Tyrod Taylor, and his debut came on the road against a fearsome pass rush from the Los Angeles Chargers. 5 interceptions were the result. McGlennon was signed to a surprising contract this offseason, when there were other potential free agent options available for a lesser expense. The move was viewed as questionable at the time, even more so when the Bears traded up for Mitchell Trubisky, albeit 1 spot, but still, in the first round. Glennon's struggles forced the organization to make the move to the rookie, perhaps sooner than they hoped. That brings us to Kaiser, who is making the same mistakes here in Week 15 that he was back in Week 1. If you look at his first interception of the year, in Week 1 against the Steelers, Kaiser started down a route and made a poor throw. Fast forward to his first of 2 interceptions against the Ravens in Week 15, and what do you see? Kaiser staring down a route and making a poor throw. If there is hope for Kaiser, it's this. Jared Goff had a rough rookie season, but under Sean McVay, he looks like a quarterback reborn. Hopefully Kaiser gets the same opportunity, and the same tutelage, in his second season. Mark Schofield, NFL 1000 quarterback scout. Michael Zagaris / Getty Images 5, Alfred Blue, Houston Texans 4, Robert Turbin, Indianapolis Colts 3, Terrence West, Baltimore Ravens 2, Chris Johnson, Arizona Cardinals 1, Eddie Lacy, Seattle Seahawks. The stories of Alfred Blue and Robert Turbin's seasons are rather similar. Both were backups to better backs in 2016, both saw their teams draft a running back in the middle of the draft, and both were relegated to 3rd on the depth chart at some point this season. In the case of Blue, Lamar Miller is in the established starting back in Houston, while rookie Donta Foreman took the backup job in Week 2. Blue saw his role expanded when Foreman tore his Achilles in Week 11, but he has only managed 3.1 yards per carry. Turbin, meanwhile, was overtaken by rookie Marlon Mack, who has been far more explosive as both a runner and a receiver out of the backfield. Weeden has seen just 23 carries for 53 yards and 1 touchdown so far this season. The Ravens' running back job was wide open entering this season, with Darren Swift the favorite to nail down the starting role. But he failed to impress and was quickly displaced by Javarius Allen and then Alex Collins. Collins has made the Ravens' run game a threat each week, averaging 5 yards per carry in a multiple and diverse run scheme. West, meanwhile, has looked poor, with just 138 yards from his 39 carries this season. Chris Johnson was initially released by the Cardinals at the start of the season after a poor training camp, but he was soon resigned after David Johnson went down injured. However, Johnson isn't the back he used to be, lacking the explosion and quickness he once had that enabled him to run away from defenders. He averaged 2.5 yards per carry before being released after the Cardinals traded for Adrian Peterson. Like West, Lacy had a big opportunity entering the season. The Seahawks had no clear resolution to their running back depth chart, and Lacy was the first back given a chance to stake his claim, but he failed to impress, and his snap counts have been sporadic as the Seahawks have given a number of other backs an opportunity to take his playing time. Lacy has averaged just 2.6 yards per carry and offered little as a receiving threat out of the backfield. They've had more production out of promoted practice squad players than what Lacy has given them so far. Mark Bullock, NFL1000 running back scout Gregory Seamus/Getty Images 5. Marcus Wheaton, Chicago Bears 4. Zay Jones, Buffalo Bills 3. Terrell Pryor, Washington Redskins 2. Rashad Perriman, Baltimore Ravens 1. Ricardo Louis, Cleveland Browns. One of the biggest free agent busts of the offseason was the signing of Marcus Wheaton for the Chicago Bears. Wheaton was signed to solidify one of the outside receiver positions and give the Bears another option in the slot. However, Wheaton hasn't been able to stay on the field, and even when he has played, he has been a major disappointment. Wheaton has exceptional quickness, but he just doesn't play with any sort of toughness or physicality. Too often, he fails to finish catches through contact. Even when he does create separation and make a play on the ball, rarely does he make a play after the catch. Wheaton is likely to be a one-and-done player in Chicago. Despite big expectations as a rookie, Buffalo Bills receiver Zay Jones has been a bust this season. He was further behind the learning curve than anyone could have expected and has struggled mightily to create consistent separation. Jones has size and athleticism to win on the outside, but his skill set might be best suited for the slot in 2018. There is still time for improvement, but he will need to take big steps forward next season if he wants to return as a starter. Terrell Pryor broke out in 2016 with the Cleveland Browns, but he was never able to regain that dominant form in 2017. Injuries certainly have played a part in his poor season, but Pryor no longer can get away with merely being a great athlete. He is just too raw of a route runner to be a starting X-receiver. He's a gifted athlete but hasn't been able to put it all together. It has been a rough year for the former Ohio State quarterback. Rashad Perriman has always had talent, but like Pryor, injuries have severely taken a toll on him. He is a player who has won with great speed, but the numerous lower body injuries over the past few seasons have robbed him of his greatest strength. He has lost all confidence in his ability to win at the catch point and now is struggling to even run the most basic of routes. After being drafted in the first round of the 2015 draft, Perriman has just 41 career catches. 2018 might be Perriman's last chance in the NFL. The worst receiver currently in the league in 2017 is another AFC North player in Ricardo Louis of the Cleveland Browns. Louis just doesn't do any one thing particularly well despite playing over 500 snaps this season. He's a big receiver who doesn't play to his size at all and can get boxed out by much smaller defenders. He struggles coming out of his breaks, and his hands are inconsistent at best.